grateful that we have an opportunity. We have two guest speakers tonight. Our first one will be Jody Robb. Jody, would you stand up and join us, please? And you can come up here with me if you like. Jody Robb volunteers and works with Family Search. And she has been doing family history since she was 18 years old. She started working as a volunteer for Family Search since the 1990s, indexing the 1880 census back on the pre-antique computer programs. Is that right?
Yes, that would be, antique is right.
She's been working and has been indexing through Family Search indexing programs since 2007, having indexed over 550,000 names. Family history is certainly her life's passion. Join me in welcoming Ms. Jody.
Would you want to talk about upcoming programs, or?
Would you like me to do that next? Our upcoming programs, the series will continue. This is a series that we initiated last year in February. Typically, the Hanover County Black Heritage Society, we have partnered with the Pamunkey Library system throughout Hanover, and we've done historical displays and programming with them since probably 5 years. And last year, we were in the midst of the pandemic, and instead of doing the historic displays that we have typically done, we decided to embark on a historical initiative. And so we communicated with the library and thought, you know, what about doing some hybrid programming and some virtual programming? And we started out in February and March, and then we discussed, well, this is a part of history, why don't we continue it throughout the year? So now we have embarked on this series, continuing it throughout the season. So welcome to our fall series. So coming up on October the 12th, we will be at the Ashland Branch Library. We're going to be doing an encore presentation with Poseidon Cawthorn White. And she was here, when was it, Carolyn? A couple of weeks ago? Genealogy 101, specifically for African Americans. So she will be covering that again at the Ashland Library. October the 19th, this session will be an encore session at the Ashland Branch. And then in November in Ashland, we will be having a series, we're continuing with genealogy and looking up and researching courthouse records. And we have a guest speaker, one of which will be from Ashland Museum. And then we're going to close out our fall series on November the 9th with African American cemeteries in Hanover County. So please join us and look for the flyers. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's very nice to be with you this evening. I have been a volunteer for with Family Search officially just in the past 4 years, but before that I've been doing indexing and helping with preserving records for Family Search. So just a little bit of historical background. In September of last year, after 83 years in the making, all the microfilm that was in storage in Salt Lake and in the Granite Mountain, if any of you have heard that, 2.4 million rolls of microfilm was digitized and made accessible free to the public on FamilySearch.org. And this was a historical event. They quit before that. This is what records came on, microfilm. And so they would duplicate these records, these microfilm, and send it out to family history centers all over the world. And we do have a family history center on Monument Avenue in Richmond. So they were distributing these microfilm, but it got to be where the microfilm, it's very brittle. It got to be very costly. And so the next best thing, and technology supported this, was the effort to digitize. And so as of 2017, they no longer distributed microfilm, but the effort was put into digitizing. So they thought that this digitizing effort would take 50 years. Can you imagine how, you're looking at, it seems like you're looking at this mountain of stuff, and you want to get it done quickly, and you want to get it done right. And so, but 50 years, I mean, that's been half my life. I mean, no, not half my lifetime, but as long as I've been doing genealogy, that's how long they thought this was going to take. Instead, it took only, took 20 years. The effort took 20 years, and this has been because of the technology in computers, the technology in people's brains, the advancement of the digitizing and the computers. And so originally it started out with 5 people starting to digitize. And if anybody looked at a microfilm, it's like 1 page at a time, and you click, take a picture, 1 page at a time. But technology supported that they could do a microfilm, a whole roll, in a matter of minutes, taking pictures. Now the effort is to digitize as we go. So Family Search and its predecessors, the Genealogical Society of Utah, has been preserving records, birth, marriage, death, wills, everything that you can think of. County records, land records, people's Bible records. They have been doing this for over 100 years. So now the effort is to digitize as we go, to send cameras out, to digitize as we go, and then to immediately publish those. So it's not as easy as, it's looking at a microfilm on a computer. You're still looking page after page. And some of them are slowly being indexed, like the 1950 census. That's been the most exciting thing that's happened, because it was computer-generated indexing. That means a computer looked at those images, saw that handwriting, and assigned the name to it. So I worked on the 1950 census. So the 1980 census, let's back up a little bit. I worked on one of these in the 1980 census. It took 11 years to publish and index the 1980 census. You're looking at image by image, and we were typing into a rudimentary computer. I think the first computer I had 1 megabyte. That's nothing. It's nothing. And so that's the 1880 census took that 11 years. The 1950 census came out in April. Ancestry took it, did the computer-generated indexing, volunteers, that ended in September. So 6 months, less than 6 months. And it's fully published now, so you can look at the 1950 census. So those are some of the exciting things about digitizing and looking at those free records. And Ancestry, it's not free, Family Search is free, but we're still in collaboration. Everybody's working in collaboration to make sure that records are accessible and some ways free. Are we good?
I'm getting there.
Are you getting there? Okay. Let me see. So the scanning, I told you scanning started out with 5 employees. Now it's up to 30 employees. This was as of September, with 26 scanners that are working in process on this process. With the pandemic, it was a hard time. The pandemic was hard, but there were some blessings with the advancements and the way that they could work in this digitizing. So the Family History Library was closed. they had free access to all these microfilms. And so, you know, the pandemic was a dumpster fire, right? We don't like it, but let's look at the silver lining of things, that things happened that we don't know about during the pandemic that are gonna be beneficial to us. We good?
Keep dancing.
Let's keep dancing. So Stuart and Earl did one of the first projects, and I'm gonna let them tell you about it, of working with the camera. And the camera that they used, we got the camera 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, because like I said, the pandemic was, you know, we can't count 2 years. This camera that they had is obsolete now. That's how fast technology is moving. That the camera they used is now obsolete, and they had to retrofit it to fit the new software. So that's another exciting thing that happened with that camera, the Gilfield camera, that it was retrofitted and it's now being available to use with different software that automatically things get published right away.
Yep, I think I'm ready.
Okay.
Y'all forgive me. I forgot everything.
This is the other thing,
Yeah.
microfiche, you know, this is easy to duplicate, it's 15 cents a sheet. This is not so easy, but now you just look on a computer and it's there, so. There you go.
Hopefully this works.
Okay. Thank you, thank you.
Thank
Any
you,
questions
Jody.
for Jody?
I'll come back after.
She'll be back.
I'll be back.
Let me see if I can get this to work. The story of my life here. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a good guy, okay? Francine will vouch for me. I will. You won't? It's not good. Get up. Did anybody see the movie Coco? Write that down if you had it, Coco. Can y'all see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're fine.
Oh,
Okay. The movie Coco was produced by,
The microphone is there if you need it.
oh, okay, yeah, can y'all hear me?
No.
No? Turn them up, brother. But anyhow, it was produced by Disney and Pixar. It's a story, it's a Latin American theme, but it talks about family. And the theme of the program was that when people pass on to the other side, if you don't remember them, they will evaporate. And there was a better word for it. And I was going to show you a song that the kid played for his, I guess it would be his great-grandma. And as he sang, she came back to life. She remembered her husband. So the connecting the links kept moving on. It's a wonderful movie. I truly love it. It is the best movie to me to describe what Joey has been talking about and what we share with people. And that's ancestral veneration. Our ancestors are important to us. We may not know how all, but they're important to us. So preserving thy memories, thy names. Like it says here, come out the movie, if you forget him, he will be gone forever. So that's why we think the family history work that we do is so important. And looking for records all over the world, everywhere, is what Family Search does. I'm going to show you a short film to explain a little bit more. It lasts about 5 minutes, so be patient. Can you hear?
That's not paired up yet. We didn't pair it up.
Oh, we didn't pair it up?
Yeah, use the microphone.
As you are seeing, they are just like a thief, all destroyed because of the feedback happening. The records are not new. Under their condition, there is every possibility for someone information to get wasted or get destroyed over the year. And so as a result of that, we have been making practical effort to ensure that these informations are recorded in a digital fashion. When I saw these records for the first time, it was devastating. You know, I had my heart broken. If we do not do this now, in 10 years' time, we will not probably find all of this information available. If these records are lost, the memory of our ancestors will be lost forever. I will start by thanking God for giving us the idea and the knowledge to approach family research. The chief of the State House of the governments of Sierra Leone sent an official correspondence to the President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, President Thomas S. Monson, asking if the church organization in charge of record preservation can come in the country to help the country to preserve all the sensitive records that they are keeping. So this is how we're doing it. We're helping to preserve the records by providing the necessary tools and the technology records that we have to preserve, between 40 to 50,000 images per week. And then the project will last for at least 3 years. And then after this process of indexing, the records will be available online. So people, individuals, and families may have access to these information. Here we are in Togo, in the western rural district in Sierra Leone. Behind me, you may notice the health center. You see mothers registering the new babies. And this is one of the birth and death registration office that we have in the country, where some of the records are coming from for digitalization and preservation purpose. As well as preserving the government's records, we also help to preserve the Catholic Church records in the Archdiocese of Freetown. If anyone allows these records to fall apart or to dissipate, it would be a colossal, dastardly negative effect on the history and the integrity of our nation. The work that family research is doing is phenomenal. Any kind of record at all is crucially important because it becomes a database for future generations. I'm here with my family, uncles, mother, cousins, younger brothers and sisters. This village is called Mokebondo village, and all this while we've been keeping records through word of mouth, from father to son and down the generations. But most times, critical records get missing when people die. It's very important to keep the history of this family because I personally would like our children and their own children to know my own father, my mother, my grandfather. Working with family search will enable us to keep these records because now they are not only going to be on paper, word of mouth, they're going to be electronic. It's anywhere in the country or in the world. With a click of the button of a mouse, you'll get it. To have a project where we're trying to make sure we capture and maintain the records that do exist is a remarkable undertaking, and it's very necessary. All over the earth, we make available our records, and they strengthen communities because they have that sense of place, a sense of person, a place of history.
So just think about millions and millions of records that have gone by the wayside in the conditions that we saw there. Water damage, fire, theft. I talked to one organization, one church, lady was very excited about the potential of having our records digitized. Make a long story short, she went looking for the records and whatever it was supposed to be was not there. She went back to a previous secretary and said, where are all our records? Well, the minister who came in a few years ago asked what all this was. And he said, just throw it out. All those records are gone. So we are in a rush to find records, to get them digitized so that they will be available, you know, for research and for posterity. Here's a question I'd like some of you to answer. If I remember, Doc, you were doctor of history, right? You won't confess it, right? What significant event occurred May 18th, 1860? All right, no Googling, it's cheating. Anybody want to take a guess? What significant event occurred on May 18th, 1860?
It has to be something to do with record keeping because I found, information on my family during that time.
Okay, and where was that?
Madagascar.
Madagascar. All right, interesting, okay. I know that we've done, the church, Family Search, has done a lot over there. And by the way, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Stuart Scott. I am the Assistant Director of Communications for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Do a lot of promotion for Family Search and some other things, humanitarian outreach, etc. Well, the Republican Party nominated Abraham Lincoln that week to be the candidate,
Oh, okay.
okay? However, I didn't ask what historical event happened. I asked what significant event happened. Here's what I'll share with you. The Gilfield Baptist Church of Petersburg baptized 262 people on that day. I found that amazing. Earl was with me when we found it, right, Earl? 262 people baptized in one day. How do we know that? From records. Gilfield had some of the most impeccable records that you could ever find from 1800s and even back in some cases. One of the oldest, if not the oldest, African American church in North America. But the records were perfect. I mean, it's just amazing. Handwriting was great. The grammar and everything. I was amazed, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, this is slavery time. I mean, I had to readjust my paradigm when we were in there, you know, doing these records. And they had quite a few books, minutes, Sunday school attendance records, something else I'm doing blank. But anyhow, it was a lot of records. And while we were doing this, I took time to try to read through and go through significant dates to see what was in the minutes. There was no discussion of slavery, and I didn't find any discussion about the Civil War. I thought that was amazing. And this is Petersburg. Basically, it all ended. So that, again, put me mentally in another place that I would never be if we didn't have these records, or I had access to these records. It was a sophisticated society, yet it seemed like you didn't delve in political issues, maybe. Maybe to maintain freedom, I don't know. But anyhow, that's what we found. I think these were Sunday school records.
They were in green log books. We had a whole bunch of them, but our church burnt down and burnt all the records.
And that's what church was that?
Greenwood Baptist
Where?
and Greenwood, in Ashland.
In Ashland? Okay.
Greenwood.
But these are the type of books, they had an awesome collection. And we spent a couple of days, I'm sorry?
I pointed to that book. I said, like the one on the end.
Right, okay. This is what we call the monster, the octopus, or whatever. And this is what we use to take pictures, if you will, of the records. Like my being delayed getting here because I forgot keyboard and all that stuff, I was gonna bring that here tonight, but we had to send it back. It stopped, it wouldn't work. Something's wrong somewhere. So we had to send it back. I was gonna bring it here to give all you a chance to take a shot at it, just so y'all can experience it. But unfortunately, I can't. But that's the camera we use down at Gilfield. And there's that guy right there that's playing around with it. I'm trying to figure out what to do next. Excuse the jazz, but this gives you an idea of what we do. That's my hand there. And that other hand on the far side is Brother Hunter. Now you can't see the camera every time we take a shot. It's digitized, but the screen, it takes a while to get caught up on the screen, but eventually you start seeing the record slide across that we're taking. And those records go to a coded disk that matches the machinery, if you will. We're doing Ashland now, right? Ashland, Virginia?
Yeah.
So they got giant machines that crunch these numbers. They add metadata, I think we may have covered that, and other information so the record can be searchable. But the beginning of it is what we see in here. And that music was from Earl. You pulled that up. Don't look at that. You pulled that music up. We in the back of the church jamming, having a good time. But that's a shot of the upper part of the camera. And we could go back to that church and probably spend another 2 days getting records.
Is that Gilfield? Is that the church of Gilfield?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's Gilfield, yes. Yeah.
That man, the preacher, came to Office Max, and I got a copy of the cover,
Right.
and every time we have a black person showing in the library, it's up on the wall. Francine puts it up, because it's old records.
Right.
And, so he was in there, but he wanted it digital, like you said, but he did not want to give it to anyone, because he felt like it.
That's another thing we face. People are like this.
Yes.
You know, I don't want you to know who my grandmother was, and I mean, you run across all type of personalities, if you will, in this business. There's I guess a small museum up in Montpelier, and they've got some records where 2 separate individuals went through all the county, including Henrico County, I think, but Hanover County, and wrote down information on African American cemeteries. And I negotiated, I met the young man, or the elderly man, he's probably passed by now, he was quite old. He had done pretty much the eastern part of the county. And he said, yeah, you can do it, but some kind of way my work is copyrighted with another lady's work. Anyhow, I spent a lot of time trying to negotiate to get those records so that we could digitize them. So if y'all got any connections in Montpelier, I forgot the name of the little museum there. I think that's a very valuable record for African American, as is other records. I'm going to close with this. That's a picture of First African Baptist Church, which is now a medical building for VCU, right at Broad and 12th Street. Okay? I don't know if you're familiar with downtown Richmond. You go way up the hill to get to VCU, and the first street, 12th Street that you turn, there's a newer version of that, but that's the original building. We were working with the Baptist General Convention of Virginia, probably the largest African American church association in Virginia, 1,100 churches. And those churches have tons of records that they have a sincere interest in preserving. And that's why we had the camera here, the one that malfunctioned that I had to send back. But we attempted to work with them to get that done. The name of that program is Sacred Spaces. And that's a long subtitle there. Basically to preserve anything about African American religious history is what they are hoping to do. The Baptist General Convention, I don't have the address, but they're located on the back of the campus of Virginia Union University. So if any of y'all ever want to reach out to them, they've got all types of records. And they understand the value of preserving because, again, they can walk out the door, fire, water damage, earthquake. And I don't know if Jody had mentioned it, but several years now with a lot of the hurricanes and storms and things that have gone through, particularly in Texas, they contact Family Search to get a copy of those records that they lost. And we do it for free. Everything we talk about is for free. And you might have to give me a ham biscuit when I do it, but everything's for free. But here they got yearbooks, Sunday school programs, histories of ministers and other significant others, in no order, but we were attempting to get it in some type of order so that we can digitize it. 90% of this material has no genealogical worth. So we were trying, through Family Search, trying to create a new outreach program that's not genealogical directed. So that's what we're attempting to do here. Yeah. There are some more records there. History of Negro Baptists of North Carolina. As I said before, there are yearbooks, and that's pretty much it. But that's who we are, and that's what we do. Maybe we can come back to questions. Oh, go ahead.
My name is Carol, and I'm with Hamilton County Black Heritage. And as I'm doing this, I'm visualizing our mini museum in the Henry Clay Inn. We've been in existence for about 25 years, and we've been gathering information over those 25 years. And all of the things that you're showing there are the things that we have in our museum today. And we're in the process of digitizing. And when I say
Are you
in the
doing it on your
process,
own?
pardon?
You are digitizing the
We're
museum?
in the process of learning how to digitize.
Oh, okay.
Put it that way.
Okay.
I did write a proposal, got some grant funding, and we just purchased a new computer and a copy machine. I'm not knowing exactly how we're going to move forward. I've been in touch with the Library of Virginia, and they've done some things for us as far as advising us. But I'm glad to hear that you're doing this because I need all kinds of information to help with digitizing the things that we have. We have all kinds of records and documents and what have you. I'm the founder of that organization, and most of the things that have come in over the 25 years are things that I know where they came from, but nobody else does. And I'm the oldest person in the organization.
But that information needs to be recorded some kind of way and preserved.
Pardon?
What you just said, you're the only one that knows, it's, you know,
Yeah, and we're in the
if
process,
something happened to you, guess what?
everything's,
That information goes with wherever you go.
yeah, so.
And we'll be on the guitar singing Remember Me to keep you alive till we can get those records.
We started cataloging, and we have a system in place where we just documenting what we have, but we started cataloging now, and, writing the information down so that when I pass, if it's not, digitized, at least people will know where stuff is and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So,
Can
anyway,
you write down your name and address and contact information and I will, talk to the family search that I'm involved with and see, because right now we are looking for records to be digitized.
oh,
And
my biggest problem is, and Alphine was president of Black Heritage for 10 years. Phyllis is sitting there and has been with us that long. And I don't know if she wanted me to stop something.
But yeah, I mean, if you're willing to, give me your contact information, and I will, give that information to, my upline. And, because they're always looking for opportunities to digitize records, like at historical societies and things like that.
Okay, my question is, once it's digitized, does it still belong to us?
Yes,
Okay, that's-
you get a copy of it, and then you sign a contract to say, yes, in fact, I'll talk about a little bit, the contracts and stuff like that. But you get a copy of it, and then a copy goes to Family Search. And it's all under contract. And you decide how you want it to be handled,
Okay.
so.
But is it possible that now, we don't know today or any day when any of us will be here, would it be feasible for her, to do an oral?
That's one way of doing it, doing an oral presentation.
Yes, until she can get it digitized?
And, well, what happens, you can do it orally, and you can preserve it forever here on Family Search.
Yeah.
It's a place for oral records,
Mhm.
something that we strongly suggest people to do.
Yeah.
To tell those stories right on the computer. And I tell people, I'm pretty certain everything that goes in Family Search will be around until they start taking animals in pairs to Cape Kennedy. So it's gonna be preserved, right? I wanna say one thing that she said, Jody, coming up. You mentioned about getting a computer and a scanner
We have a computer and a copier.
and a copy.
Photocopier.
You gonna work yourself to death.
Yeah.
You gonna work yourself to death. And I don't know if you're hearing this, but, the church is doing some research where it's possible telephone size devices will soon be out where you can do it.
Yeah.
I don't know how soon it's gonna be out, but that's what I showed you the monster with the arms and the lights. They're looking at all type of, several arrays of cameras to do certain type of work. Like me, I've got 7 big plastic buckets full of pictures,
So,
that have been passed down from deceased persons, and at some point I gotta sit down and get them categorized, but I'm not gonna sit at a copy or scan and put them in. I'm gonna have to invest in a machine, and maybe I'll go in business and start doing it for people. That's something I was thinking of doing.
we had in that proposal that I did, we asked to buy a camera. And then we said, well, if we buy a camera, we gotta teach these old folks how to use it. So the thing that I did was ask the provider whether or not we could pay someone to come in and digitize and what have you. And they approved that. I don't know whether we're gonna have enough money to do all that, but anyway.
Well, before you do that, talk with us,
Okay.
because if you're just getting the camera, are you just taking pictures, or do you want information with those pictures so they can be
We want
searchable?
information.
So some cameras won't be able to do that.
Yeah, okay, but we're not buying the camera, we're gonna do whatever, so I'll be in touch with you guys.
That's what I was saying, orally as she's doing it.
Yeah, orally would be perfect way to start preserving it.
So this is Family Search. Let's see. Passwords are gonna be the death of us, aren't they? So there's a couple of spots under search and images. So when you pull up family search and you put in a surname, that only gives you about 40% of records because they have been indexed and they have been paired with a digital image. There's 70% of them are images that have not been indexed yet. And if you like to index, if you like to do something like that, there's ways to do that. But there's only about 150,000 volunteers that actually index. Today, 7 million records, 7 million names were released out into Family Search to look at. So when you look at, I've done only 500,000 in this long time, and I spend a lot of time, sometimes 20 hours a week indexing. And one little person is not gonna be able to index 7 million names. So that's why there's 70% of images that have not been indexed. So that's looking at, as if you were looking at a microfilm. So let's just put in Petersburg here, Virginia. Let's do Guilford because I actually indexed the Guilford records, which meant that I saw the images and then typed in. What was really interesting, and I'll tell you a little bit about those Guilford records, was that, okay. Why are we not searching here? There you go, search image groups. There was a, I think it was on the death pages, or the baptism pages. Anyway, one of the pages, they had the person's name, and I think one of the earliest records I actually did was like the 1830s, which was, like you said, so interesting. These are African-American records that dated back during slavery, and these people were, they had a life, they went to church, they did all the ordinances that we think about when you go to church, the births and the marriages. And there was one page that actually gives me goosebumps again, because there was a page where it had the name of the person, it had when they were baptized, when they were married, and if they died, their death date. But if they died in New York, or if they died someplace outside of Virginia, it had where they went to. It was so exciting to see that they took these people that from birth to death, no matter where they went. And that was exciting about it. I still get, as you index on Family Search, you get little thank you notes. Because they'll say, so-and-so, well, they're not my name specifically, but they say, somebody volunteered and did this record. And so I get little thank yous. And it's so exciting to realize that when you've got these images and that they belong to people, that they are remembered. And somebody is searching for their name. And that's not what I wanted, it wasn't anyway. So let's just look at these images from Alaska. And this is kind of what it comes up as. It looks, and so that's how you would look at, these are, school records. The other way to look at it is in the catalog. And so remember that there are 70% of the records are in the catalog. And so I'm just gonna put in Virginia here. And these are all of the record, all the different topics that are just specific to Virginia. And then when you dig down into your locality, these are all represent a microfilm or numerous microfilms that you can look at. And that's what's exciting. And granted, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack, but you take your genealogy and you look at all the clues that it gives you. You look on the records that you can see that are indexed by surnames, say census records, and you make a timeline and go, okay, they were here and they were here and they were here. And where did they go to church? And where are the church records for this? Where are the cemeteries for this? So, anybody have any questions?
Yes.
When you say you indexed it, do you just take the records and put them, or do you take each individual name and
Okay, I'll
match
show
that
you
up
what
with each
my
record?
index is. So right now, I'm doing the Tennessee County death records. So I'm just gonna open this batch for you. So these are death records from Tennessee. And, it says asking me, am I gonna index this image? And I'm gonna say yes, yes, yes. Unless there's a duplicate, most of the time there isn't. So what it's asking me is the certificate number, which is right over here. And then I just go down in the template and fill it in. And then, let's see. Tab all the way down. And then it goes to the next image. So then when this is all indexed, and then so it used to be that you had an indexer A and an indexer B that would do the same image, and then there would be an arbitrator.
Mhm.
So three eyes were looking at this image. They changed a little bit when they went to, now it's a web-based computer program. Used to be on a desktop, that was like 2007, and then it went to web-based, so as it saves as on the server as we go along. So then you'll have an indexer and then a reviewer, and then another reviewer if they don't jive. So one indexer and then the reviewer. So there's always multiple eyes on it, but we all make mistakes. We're all human. But on Family Search, they have edit buttons now.
Oh, that's what I'm saying, they have edit
Yes,
buttons,
they have edit buttons.
correction.
However, the 1950 census, they're still working on that, because there's been mistakes on the 1950. Because it's computer generated and then some human eyes looked at it. But you can edit now, which is really nice, that, because that's part of your family.
Right.
I'm going to something a little different. We also have a collection of 10 plates, the little photographs. What can be done with preserving those?
I'll have to look at that. There should be something that can be done.
Couldn't they be digitized as well?
Sure, yeah.
You can take pictures of
You
them.
can take pictures of
You
it.
can take pictures of them, but I'm talking about the actual, the 10.
One of their 10, they
Yeah.
have to be 10, going back to the 1850s.
Yeah, I would think that you would want to research how to preserve those, I don't know if I don't even know if you would put it in acid free. That question I don't know,
As well as digitized.
as well as digitizing it, yeah.
Those, yeah.
So the more records that we see, the more records that are digitized, the more, people are, willing to have these records out there. And these are all free. Now, to the question about, contracts. So Family Search has a contract Family Search does not own these Tennessee death records. The state of Tennessee owns those death records. So they are who the contract is with. Tennessee will say, yes, you can put it on the internet, yes, these are the dates you can use. We want it all digitized, but like Wisconsin, I just finished some Wisconsin, and they were like 1996, the time when my kids were being born. But there was a disclaimer on there that these records are being digitized and indexed for the future. They're not being indexed there is still privacy. You can't take a picture of it, you can't share anything. There are some records in, Germany, the state of Illinois a little bit, where they say, yes, you can digitize it, you can index it, but you have to go to a family history center to look at that film. We are not going to put it out for everybody to look at, because they are still the owners of the contract. They are still owners of that, piece of property.
What about going to DC?
The National Archives. Well, the National Archives, like that's who has the census, and so they have released that, And it's for public view now because it's at every 72 years.
So
But
that's
they
already
release it.
started with that.
But there are some things on the National Archives website, that you still have to pay for.
Mhm.
The state of Illinois, I specifically, because I have some, my husband has some relatives that went to Chicago, and they go, you can digitize it, you can put the index out on the web, you know, and family search,
Right.
but we want you to come to us and pay for it.
Yeah.
So some of it has to do with financial, but they are still the owners of the, so it's not family search, no, we're not being picky about, yes, you can look at this record, but no, you can't look at this record. It's still who owns the record.
Let me ask a question. For example, we have a collection of memorabilia, records and whatever, from Janie Porter Barrett, Hanover Industrial School, from the minutes and what have you, that were donated to us. They go back, I think, to the 1940s and whatever. Do they belong to us?
Yes, because they were donated to you.
Oh, okay, that's.
I would say,
Yeah.
Who donated them? Let me just probe. Who donated them?
The young lady whose mother was the head mistress or whatever you wanna call it of the industrial school.
Who owned the school?
Who owned
I hate to
Janie
get
Porter
technical.
Barrett School? Do you know, Hunter, do you know?
Was that
who
Hanover
owned it?
County?
It was Hanover County.
Cause let me get to the point. Sometime, somewhere in there, I ran across school records, all school records.
It was a training center, it was county training center for black folks, you know, they trained us back then.
Right, and if it had a connection to a county or to the state,
Mhm.
all educational records belong to the Department of Education.
Mhm.
So just be careful. I'm not an expert, but I ran across that.
Yeah, we have loads of them, you know, they've been framed and whatever, those, documents. Also, the record of people registering to vote for Hanover County. I have the records for the white folks where they signed up, the records for black folks.
what years I mean, it depends on what years you're talking
Yeah.
about, because sometimes, you know, the privacy and the, you know, after a while, it,
The 40s and 50s, the records.
yeah, after, you know, somebody that's more, knowledgeable about the law
Okay,
and contracts and family search is something you would, if you decide to do that, would definitely guide you through that and say,
okay,
you know,
well, I guess when we get up with you guys, we'll find out.
yeah,
some
if we
stuff.
can get that far,
There's
that, you know,
so
that would be great, yeah.
So much stuff to us until
Yeah.
it's unbelievable.
So is there any other questions that you have?
Individual family searches, do we start there or do we use some of these, you know, like genealogy sites,
To do your family history, it's,
additional?
you know, Stuart's locked me out here, which,
Sure. Let me get-
so, I like Family Search, it's a collaborative tree. It's not like Ancestry where you put your tree out there and it stays within your tree. Family Search's tree is a collaborative tree, it's a worldwide tree. That means that, you know, my grandfather, in fact, I was just telling Stuart that my grandfather, Taylor, who he died in 1978, sorry, somebody just, go back here, somebody just changed his death date, and it was my 10th cousin. I'm going, what are you doing in my grandfather's file? You know, and so you do get a bit
Yeah.
territorial. But you have to also realize that people who are messing with your stuff are related. And so we have to be nice to our relatives. No.
He said-
Was it correct?
It was correct, yeah.
Okay.
But, and so that's the problem, so sometimes that is the problem with, Family Search's tree. But I also like it, so, my grandfather here. I also like it because if I find a source going a little slow here.
It might be my system, because I don't know.
I also like it because if there's a source on Family Search, I can immediately attach it. So he's got 42 sources here.
Oh, wow.
And so there, if it's a source on Family Search, I can immediately attach it. If it's a source on Ancestry, I can also attach it there. I just copy and paste. Actually, I use Record C.
So someone following you can already have that information.
Yes,
Right.
and then you can add memories. You know, Stuart talked about photos.
Right,
You could add memories.
yes.
And so this is what I've added, and I've, you know, his death certificate. And I wrote a story in here. My grandfather was a glazer. He worked for himself. He worked in the mines early in Park City, Utah. He was a miner. And then, you know, 3 kids come along and he's only making $1.50 a day. And so he moves down to the city, not really a city, but a town,
Right.
and he becomes a glazer. And so,
What's a laser?
somebody who works with mirrors and windows.
Okay.
And he had this old clap white truck with the, what do you call it?
Racks.
The racks on it, yes, when he would put that, and he would honk the horn and us kids would, I didn't live around them, my dad was in the military, but when we did go visit, we'd all go hang on the outside of the truck and he'd take us all down. And so, you know, I wrote a little story about that, because you could, you know, you can have your memories, you can, a friend of ours, her husband just passed away a couple of years ago, and there was some audio of him talking about his family, and that's on there.
That will be beautiful.
And, yeah, you know, the Family Search just has a lot of free and accessible, and if you find a record, you attach it right away, and you don't have to go looking all over the world for it, it's right there. But you have to remember that it's a one collaborative tree, but I help people of all, I've helped a gentleman that found out he's from, came from Belgium, you know. I'm helping a sister that, we found out we're 10th cousins. She's African American. We're all one big family. And, you know, by just, opening ourselves up to the possibilities of having this one tree, and that we're all one human family, and that we're all interconnected. We all want the same things. We all want to share our memories. We all want to preserve our memories. We all want to be remembered. Like that, you know, in fact, I just watched it the other day, and when the old gentleman is in the hammock, and he just moves away because nobody remembered it, and nobody hung his picture on the frienda, whatever it's called. And you know, it just brings tears to your eyes, because our ancestors want to be remembered. They want a legacy. They want to be remembered. And this is a way we can do that, by digitizing and preserving our memories.
And so few of them have pictures, I mean, because people didn't have cameras back then.
No.
So few of them have pictures.
But
so-
you know, so I started when I was 18. I lived with my grandmother my first year of college. Who does that? I don't know, but I did. I lived with my grandparents, and my grandmother gave us all our first book of remembrances. And she had pictures going back to, see if I can bring it up here. I think it's probably still in here. She had pictures going back to, see all these pictures here? You know, they just, this is my husband's side of the family. She just had all these pictures. And we would go by cemeteries, and she'd go, oh, that's a beautiful cemetery, look how they're taking good care of it. And she would tell me stories, you know, that Aunt so-and-so is related, you know, their next door neighbors were actually related. They didn't like each other until both of their husbands passed away, and they took care of each other. And, you know, so it's nice to see how that's kind of went full circle. And she would tell me stories. So at age 18, you know, so now I read the obituaries. I don't know who I'm looking for, but you know, I could read the Richmond Times-Dispatch, obituaries. I'm not originally from Richmond, but my family, going back to the 1700s, came from Virginia. So we all are, like I said, interconnected. So anybody else have any questions? Well, thank you.
Is your last name Taylor now?
That's Taylor is my mother's maiden name, yeah. My son-in-law is a Taylor from Hanover County, so that's kind of funny that my daughter is now Rebecca Taylor. And, Jennings are, some of my family, the Jennings down in Prince Edward County. And, when I first moved here, on my dad's line, they said we came from James City, and I go, that's wrong. And it's been wrong on every tree, and I'm looking at this going, while I'm here, while I'm in, Richmond, and I work at the Family History Center, I said, and I go, well, this guy had 2 daughters, there's no sons. So I go, that's all wrong. So I changed it. Pretty soon everybody starts to change it back, change it again, so anyway. So.
Are there any more questions?
One question, do you come across people who do not want their families found?
I run across that.
Specifically, my grandmother had a twin white sister, and the Samuels ignored the Lewises. So I don't know anything about them.
What I have found from people who come in and ask us at the Family History Center,
That's me.
at the Family History Center, is that, in fact, I had a lady who just came in who was looking for her daughter's fiance's family, who had that same kind of black-white. And what I'm finding now, because they're coming into the Family History Center, they're actually searching, is that people are so open now.
More people are.
More people are, and it's
Yes.
becoming more okay.
Yes.
And it's, people are embracing that. It is what it is. Stuart, a number of years ago, said that we sometimes look at history right here, but we need to look at it 30,000 feet up in the air
Right.
and take everything into context, and you just go with it. It is what it is.
Let me tell you a little something about me to your question there. My mother's father, I knew him quite well. Considered African American, but to me, he looked white. That's where I got these eyes from. His father could not find any. He was just dropped on earth. There was nothing except he was on my grandfather's record that he was the father. Okay. So I had no idea where William Rowan came from. Carolina County, Carolina and King William area. Make a long story short, and this is a DNA example, okay, which we are not into, but to the point about the racial mixing. Doing my DNA, you get thousands of connections on DNA. But I found 21 white second and third cousins. And this is what I did, it took some time. I traced the tree, the surname tree of each of those 21.
See where they connected.
And I found my great-great-grandfather.
Really?
There's no doubt in my mind, he was the father. Now, I don't have enough of those to identify who the mother was, but I know who the father was. There's no doubt in my mind. Those 20-some odd names, they all trace back to this one guy.
Are you from Carolina?
Well, my mother grew up in Carolina. I would live there in the summer, but basically I lived in Richmond. Oh, I got all kinds of kinfolks, Caroline and Mangle Hick and all that way. And just the other day, someone sent me through Ancestry, a message attached. And they were cohabitation records. My mother's side were leads, and that led me to about 600 leads that I'm getting to. Just finding a mother and a father, they would be my great-great-grandfather and mother. Having found them, then I was able to connect, like I said, it was just, I'm still doing leads.
It's just like when we were doing the Madagascar part.
Right.
My great-grandmother is in, the Madagascar book that we have in Black Heritage.
Right.
She was married to John Preston Clark, which started about 11 churches, in this area.
Right.
Yeah, and, but she was raised by the Quakers in Mount Pelican. She was never a slave, but she was raised by.
She was raised by the Quaker. Francine, I guess we turn it back to you.
Yes, are there any more questions, comments, or feedback?
Wonderful information.
Thank you all so much for coming.
I apologize for being late. I apologize for getting stuff. I apologize that the camera was broke.
Thank you for
I
coming.
apologize that I embarrassed.
You have to come back.
I apologize that I embarrassed Francine, okay? So,
Thank you to Jody and to Stuart. Let's give them a hand. And just a reminder of the upcoming events that we have. October the 12th, the Side of White will be at Atlee, Genealogy 101 for African Americans. October the 19th, Stuart, the Side of Cawthorn White. Stuart,
But you have it listed.
it is listed. And Jody will be back on October the 19th at Atlee. And then in November the 2nd, we'll have guest speakers, some from the Ashland Museum. That's, what's her name, Roseanne Shaw? She'll be discussing further research using courthouse records. And then we'll be closing out full circle for the fall, African American cemeteries, November 9th. Atlee.
Courthouse is a mess. You'll be there all day, or 4 days.
So thank you all so much. You all take care and be safe.